What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Smash Talk. We are the Duderes. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Todd.
And, just a little FYI and apologies up front. We had some technical difficulties over the last couple weeks. Been working to get that situated so we can bring you guys some more content here. Hopefully things will be a little bit more smooth sailing now that, things have gotten worked out here tech-wise. And, also on the announcements, this is going to be our last episode of Smash Talk for a little while. Now, if anything newsworthy Smash Brothers related to the Smash Ballot, or just big news for Smash in general, comes up, we will make another special episode. But we want to let things simmer down for the Smash Ballot, because we don't want to beat this until it's a dead horse. We've talked about a lot of characters, a lot of the ones that you guys have requested us to talk about, and we just want to see how the Smash Ballot plays out over the next couple of months, and, talk about it as things become more relevant and we get closer to them actually selecting. So with that being said, we're going to jump into our characters here. Today we're going to be talking about all four are third party. Now, a lot of you have said in the comments and to us that, third party has the lowest chance of getting it. So we kind of want to give them a little bit of, favoritism in this episode and talk about that. So, and we're going to kick it off with Bayonetta. Now, Bayonetta, action, platforming, beat 'em up, super stylized type game. Bayonetta 2 was a Wii U exclusive, so it was a big deal for Nintendo to have that. Got a lot of people to buy the console specifically for that game. Todd, what do you think about her specifically?
I really like Bayonetta. I think she's a really cool character. However, she is really sexual, and a lot of people say, well, that's not a big deal. Well, this is Nintendo. It is a big deal. It really is. And that is largely what her character is based around. It's very sexual. Honestly, I feel like her potential in being Smash Brothers is fairly small. I think her character is cool, her design is cool, her moves, she's got plenty of potential to have really cool moves to make her stand out, to make her feel like she was a worthwhile pick and someone worth adding to this roster. However, like I said, she is really sexual. I don't know how Nintendo, how much they would have to tone it down, or if they would even want to tackle toning her down, possibly losing part of her character in the process. With that, I feel like that she just doesn't, that her potential to be in Smash Brothers is fairly low.
Yeah, and I honestly, I feel like everything that you've said related to her is pretty much what I would have covered, so I really have nothing more to add. I mean, I do think that she would be, have really flashy moves and things like that, but her sexualization of, is really the big drawback. So, moving on, we have Beautiful Joe. I have a lot of fond memories of this particular character playing, Beautiful Joe, with the crazy, cinema powers, fast forward and slow and all that. I love the atmosphere of that game, and I really think the personality of Beautiful Joe would fit well into Smash. I mean, how do you particularly feel about him?
Yeah, I mean, he's colorful, he's flashy, he's fun, he's, for the most part appropriate, I feel like his brawler type, physical moves would make him fairly unique, and, I could see like his, rewind and fast forward move, be used as kind of like Shulk's, foresight, where, it's a counter move, for example, rewind and fast forward, so on and so forth, or, super speed, making him fast for fast forward, so, stuff like that. He's colorful, he's fun, he's interesting, he's unique, he's different. So really, he checks out on everything that would make him a good pick. I've never played a Beautiful Joe game, but a lot of people want him. He was a popular character, so he would be a fun, unique choice that I think he's got the biggest focus with getting new characters is, are they unique enough? And yes, Beautiful Joe is one of those characters where he would be unique enough.
So, I mean, I would love to see Beautiful Joe, and plus, I love his helmet. Reminds me of a Gundam. So, all right, so we move on into the Black Mage from the Final Fantasy series, and we're talking about the Vivi looking character. Now, I love Final Fantasy games. Um, a lot of people have suggested the Black Mage be added. I'm not really sure how to fit him in there. I mean, we've talked about Geno, and we see how characters like Robin play using magic. So, I mean, I kind of see him being a bit of a more ranged attacker. You know,
He could be something like Mewtwo.
yeah, maybe. Um, I just, I think it has the potential for having some decent moves. I'm just not sure how well to translate him, how well the character would translate into the game. I mean, I'm more on the fence for him. So,
Well, he just looks more like an assist trophy type character, if anything. That's what he
yeah.
looks like to me, at least.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess if you like the Black Mage, go ahead and vote for him. I mean, personally, not a character I personally would include. But,
Yeah, I don't think he has the potential to be an actual fighter.
so, sorry, Black Mage fans. That's just our opinion on this matter. So, this is gonna round us out to our last one for this, and this is one that from the first our first Smash Ballot video and everything through Smash Talk, people have asked about Travis Touchdown, and I'll let you take this one, Todd.
Well, Travis Touchdown is from the game franchise No More Heroes, and he's based off the real life person of Johnny Knoxville. So, he's a batshit crazy character who is one of those characters who's inappropriate, but still super fun and funny. He uses I don't know what his weapon is. It's like it looks like a lightsaber, but it's not actually a lightsaber. So that gives him a lot of potential to have, physical moves. He rides a really big motorcycle, just like, Wario, for example. So Travis, I think his only drawback is that he's not really, I think his two drawbacks is that, he's more of like an adult type character. All his games are M for mature. And the fact that he's not like a Nintendo exclusive character. So I could just see that, being a big flashback, or not flashback, a drawback is the fact that he's not exclusive to Nintendo. But other than that, he's got, stylish moves. He's practically just batshit crazy with all his sword swings and his style and his motorcycle. It's just really cool. I like Travis. I think he's funny, and I think he would be a super fun character. But he would certainly be different.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that he'd be that just another sword wielding character, because saying so in the past has yielded several angry people at us. But he does in the games utilize a sword type weapon amongst other abilities. So he does have that potential to have different types of physical moves mixed in with different types of sword play. So I think that it would work pretty well. I mean, though, yeah, then again, he is kind of an adult-esque character, aimed at an older generation, older people, much like Bayonetta.
Yeah. So, who knows if that could be their downfall, or, perhaps it's not even a really irrelevant factor.
Yeah, so I mean, it'll be interesting to see, just moving forward, how the Smash Ballot exactly plays out, because Nintendo really hasn't spoken on their selection process from this. Is it literally just a popularity contest, or is it a popularity contest and then they go, oh, well, No. Well, Bayonetta's in the top 10, but she's too sexual, so she's got to go. Um, Beautiful Joe's in here too. He's number 8, but he's not as popular as he used to be anymore, so he's got to go. And they just kind of whittle him down in that. I mean, I kind of wish Nintendo would be a little bit upfront about what they're gonna do once the ballot's closed.
Yeah. I mean, for all we know, they could just, it could be explicitly how many votes, these characters get, and then they just take the top 5 and weigh out who's the best. Or it could just be, hey, vote for as many times as you want. It's not gonna matter either way. They might just, look at the entire expanse of every vote, and look at all the characters, and then they will, once they close it, they will pick and choose maybe 10 characters that they think they're the best, and then think about those, and then put those down to 5, and then put those down to 2, and we don't know how it's gonna happen. So I know a lot of people who still vote daily. They still hop in there and they still vote for their favorite characters. So at this point, it's I mean, it's something, like you said, it could be a popularity contest, but at this point, we just don't know, and it's just a mystery. So it's just one giant, speculation fest. That's all it really is.
My big fear is that the ballot will be, for lack of a better term here, too popular. It will provide Nintendo with too much information to the point where they're like, well, we've got, so much feedback here, we're just gonna file this away and incorporate it all into the next Smash game.
I don't think they'd do that.
Oh, that's just kind of the personal fear I have right now with this, is that they may do something like that. So I hope that that's not the case, but I definitely think there's a potential that they might.
I think with all the promises they've had about it, I think they're way too far in to say, you know what, let's wait till next time. So I think they want to extend the life of this one as much as possible.
Yeah. So I guess with that being said, that's gonna close out this episode of Smash Talk. Like I said, this is just gonna be our last one for a little while. That way we can focus on some other things, and we're not gonna beat this into oblivion and eventually cover each and every single potential Nintendo character that can be included in this. Just want to focus on a few other things right now. But also remember that on Friday, May 29th, we're going to attempt a Splatoon live stream. And the reason I say attempt, that hopefully Nintendo's servers don't catch fire like they did the other day during the Splatoon Global Test Fire. So worst case scenario, if the Splatoon servers are, set ablaze that day due to heavy traffic, we'll at least do our best to live stream the single player. From all the information that's come out from that appears to be fairly lengthy, so at least we'll have some kind of Splatoon, live stream going on that day. So I guess that's gonna wrap this up, guys. So remember, if you like this video, please give it a like, and if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing to us, and hit us up on social media, Facebook and Twitter. Links will be down in the description, as well as a link to our Twitch channel in order so you guys can follow us beforehand on that. So with that, I've been Jeremy,
and I'm Todd,
and we'll see you next time.
See ya.